Hello, Facebook. The hood is too much. Hope everybody is well. I am in Vancouver. I actually finished at a reasonable time tonight, and I thought that I would do a little, hi, how are you? Post-premiere, especially if you're in North America. Now, I understand one of the most amazing parts about Arrow, for me, the experience, is that we are broadcast all over planet Earth. And I realize that it is only a very, very small portion of the fandom, of people that have been invested since day one that got to actually view the premiere tonight. Ratings for television shows do not stop with Nielsen ratings. They go all over the world. And so I'm going to discuss the season 4 premiere. If you haven't seen it, this is your last chance. Ready? Steady? Okay. I don't know who was in the casket, grave, tombstone, etc. Literally, I don't. But I love when shows do stuff. Granted, that's a difficult scene, but I love when shows do things that don't fall into their normal patterns. I was incredibly excited when I read that scene in the premiere. We didn't actually shoot it until very recently with a Mr. Gustin. And yeah, I'm excited. In general, though, less specifically, tonight was our 70th episode of Arrow. I remember when we shot the pilot, I did a video not dissimilar to this, where I said I got to play a superhero on TV. I hope it turns out well. I hope people enjoy it. And ultimately, for better or for worse, here we are, several years later, 70 episodes into it, and I can tell you now that season 4 is really cracking. We are not reimagining the show at all. Our show is our show, but we are trying new and exciting things that are going to push the envelope. We've seen some characters grow, change, progress, all of those things. And bottom line, it's going to be a good season. So I'm going to answer some questions, talk about things as questions come in, maybe 10, 15 minutes, and that'll be that. So I don't know who dies. People are going to ask me all year who dies. I don't know. Maybe it's Oliver from Earth 2. I don't know. I literally don't know. That's going to be all the questions, isn't it? Allison Gunter said, such a good episode, right back at it, full throttle. I feel like, for starters, my favorite first episode is always going to be the pilot, and that's not even necessarily a commentary on quality. I know that to shoot the pilot, we had so much time, and to shoot all of our subsequent premieres, we have far less time. 17 days to shoot the pilot, maybe 8 days to shoot subsequent premieres. So the degree of difficulty is much higher, but the pilot is always going to be my favorite because, A, it being a pilot, I do think that it's the best of the quote-unquote premieres. But beyond the pilot, I really did think that tonight was a full-throttle, come right back at you, and I'm really proud of it. I also like the new dynamics of so many people being on Team Arrow, which is now a weird name for it because it's more like, I mean, Oliver's not really the leader anymore. So it's a leadership by committee type of situation. So maybe we need to come up with a new name. Captain Lance, love that twist. And I will say that I've seen 5 episodes from the season so far, and my stuff with Paul coming up feels a little different. And what we saw at the end of the premiere with him seemingly working with Damien Darhk or on behalf of Damien Darhk eventually adds a nice new wrinkle to what we get to do together. Some more questions. Daytona Glenn says, how many episodes will it take for Diggle, she says Doggy, but that was a mistake, Diggle and Oliver to be good? What's with the trees in every pilot? Well, every pilot, we start out with coming through trees. That was, in the original pilot, I'm running through the forest in Lian Yu. And then in the subsequent pilot, we actually didn't have a scene with me running, and it was an idea that Greg Berlanti had actually late in the game to have a scene with me running and to be going through trees. So we've done that in every year. And then, of course, this year I pop out into suburbia. The "how you doing" line, by the way, that was an ad-lib. But as far as Diggle and I, David Ramsey and I, are concerned, it's very important that when something as regrettable as me kidnapping his wife in front of his infant child happens, that we don't just gloss over it because time has passed. So there is some mending of fences to be done between Oliver and Diggle. I think that in our third episode this season, we get some stuff that's very centric to their characters, and we go from there. So Noah Jameson's just pumped that he finally caught a live session. Jenny Canzaneri says, are there original Team Arrow scenes, the three of you? Of course. Yes. Kelly Chamberlain says, how often do you get to do ad-libs, or do they frown on that? Well, there's a difference between adding something into a scene that they can remove if you want and fundamentally changing something so that it changes the tenor and the tone of the scene. When I'm running there, they haven't scripted for me to say, how you doing? And this is, by the way, this is a very superficial ad-lib. But if I say it and they don't want it, it doesn't have to be in the show. But typically I feel like those things add a little bit more character to the scene. I don't search for them, but if they're there, they're fun to do. Stephanie Marie says we need a Batman cameo. Hey, Batman's busy. So Crystal McCusker says, were you on New Girl? I was. And Zach Glusman just says, Sarah. That's tough, Zach. Christopher Max Lopez says, you're the best. Will we ever see the full-grown goatee look? And will they ever incorporate the Archer hat to your outfit? You know, I went on Twitter where, you know, wonderful stuff happens every day. And I joked that I would never have the goatee. And the main reason that that was a joke was because if we're going to continue to do the flashbacks, which we are, then the goatee in real time would have to be fake because I would have to shave it to go into the flashbacks, or in the flashbacks, I'd have to have a big fake beard put on. I hate fake beards. They also look terrible. So long as we're doing the flashbacks, I will not have a goatee. An executive decision that I have just made live on Facebook in front of tens of thousands of people. But when the flashbacks are done, Michael Merzetti says, will there be a crossover anytime soon? There will. We are working on one now. It's a crossover that I would say is bigger than last year. I would say is a little bit more linear than last year and incorporates elements that will be premiering on the CW in the new year. Crossovers are fun. I mean, they just feel fun. Working with Grant recently, the director on 208 of Flash, his name is Ralph, and he was just looking at Grant and I wearing our respective costumes, which we had switched. I was dressed as the Flash, and he was dressed as Green Arrow. Just kidding. And he was just looking, and he was smiling. I was like, what are you smiling at? And he was just like, well, I mean, this is just cool. Yeah. Sunil Tumkar says, hey, Steven, are you ready for the Jays game today? Well, it's tomorrow. Technically, you're on the East Coast probably, so it might be today. I am incredibly ready. I've got a little Blue Jays shirt on that I've been wearing for 5-6 weeks straight. I won't talk about the Jays right now, but go Blue Jays. Very excited. Put them on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Jason Stark picked them. I mean, they've done everything short of throwing a black cat on the field, but I don't care because they look like the 2012 Kings, and those Kings won the Cup. Okay, fine. Tyler Leith Jackson says, our son is totally named after your character. Just thought you should know. Love your show. That's nice. Thank you. I hope he grows up strong. There's a good question. Steven, how is it working with Neil McDonough? He was an incredible addition to the cast. Well, he is an incredible addition to the cast. I love Neil. Neil has really embraced British Columbia, brought his family up here. They're living down on the water, And every time I see him, because we had a chance to work together a little bit more recently, he is just such a, first of all, a wonderful actor. Secondarily, an incredibly professional and entertaining artist to work with. And we talk baseball, and I could do scenes with Neil McDonough all day. We are very, very lucky to have him on our show, and I think that he is going to enter the pantheon of all-time great Arrow villains with a bunch of twists to come. There are elements to Neil's Damien Dark that haven't existed on the show before, both from a writing standpoint, a character standpoint, and a mystical standpoint. Well, Jake Allen, that's a rude question. So Justin Marie Powers wants to know, will there be a crossover with Legends of Tomorrow at some point in the future? All of these shows, I was quoted earlier saying they're essentially one show. That's because I had been working on several of them simultaneously. But I will say that each one obviously is different in tone. Each one has a different writer's room. They have executive producers that sort of float between the three shows, but each show has its own identity. That being said, they are very much in the same universe. So they exist together. They are not one show. I shouldn't have said that before. I mean, I can say whatever I want, but yeah. Adriana Fields Hackney says, I think Damien Dark is Felicity's dad. They have the same color hair. Felicity dyes hers. Anyhow, it's a good theory. Carlos A. Lopez, Constantine, coming soon. Spencer Joby says, when does Malcolm Merlin come back? Well, he's busy rosing. He's Ras Al Ghuling. He's chilling out, relaxing Al Ghul. That's it. That's all I have. I hope we see him soon. We've seen some pictures of him on set recently. John's around. Even when he's not, he is. Couple more questions. Nora McDormick says, Stephen, was it very different doing a little less action in this episode? No, because I make up for it in subsequent episodes. I will say especially that there is a portion of reintroduction at the beginning of a season. You got to meet everybody. You got to find out where they were, what they've been doing, because we always do a time jump. The next episode, pardon me, the next episode in particular just really moves fast. A lot of action. Everyone out doing their thing. Great villain, who's not even a villain of the week. He's just a great villain next week. And some really cool Oliver Thea stuff. Maybe a little action scene between them, too. Good. Amber Ferris says, Stephen, how long are your workout sessions? They're just an hour. Don't do more than an hour. In fact, sometimes I go into workout for an hour. And because of scheduling with the show or whatever, I say to Thomas, who I work with, I'm like, hey, man, I can only work out for 45 minutes. And he says, cool, yeah, great. Those are always way harder than the 60-minute workout because you essentially do the same thing, except you pack it into that smaller time frame. You don't need to work out for more than an hour. Anyone who says that I worked out for 3 hours, no, you didn't. You texted. Okay? Jeannie Williams says, how many more seasons will there be? Well, I suppose that depends on how many people watch the premiere. No, I think that we're in it for a couple more years. I really do. That obviously is dependent on the wonderful people at Warner Brothers and the sterling employees of the CW network, Peter Roth and Mark Pedowitz leading those charges respectively. I would hope that we get a chance to keep telling the story because Arrow was certainly envisioned as a 5-year show at the very least with the way that we constructed the flashbacks, which is a very bold statement for a new show. We're certainly very, very lucky to be here and to be hurtling towards the 100 episode mark, which if everything goes well, we will hit in the early part of next year. It's not Supernatural territory. And by the way, I'm sorry that I'm doing this while they're West Coast airing for their season premieres on. I certainly support Jared and Jensen and Misha and Mark and the whole Supernatural crew. And fandom, by the way. Couple more. Cal Daly says, we will revolt if Felicity is the one in the grave at the end. It's a common thing that you hear, which the viewership over the years for Game of Thrones has fundamentally disproven. Just saying. Cody Bouchard says, long live the Emerald Archer. It's really been fun to put on the new suit and to embody some of the characteristics that longtime fans of the Green Arrow and the comic book character the Green Arrow have come to admire. I really hope that we get to incorporate more of those as we move through the series. And I have very, very much enjoyed this season, both working with the new additions to the cast, the people that have been around since the beginning, and it feels very much like a family that has people graduating through it, coming, going, all that good stuff. Thank you very much for watching the premiere. If you haven't watched it, go watch it now. I mean, try to watch it live, but it's okay if you don't. Live +3, live +7, those are all industry terms that people think are in vogue now. Thank you. You are going to love the season. I have appreciated all the feedback tonight. It has been spectacular. Good night, Facebook. I'm going to eat some pizza.